What up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, Music Monday edition. We are going to Music Monday it up because it's Monday. Good of excuse as any to talk about music. It's the way I see it anyway. My glasses are getting a rough glare today, right? Is anyone else seeing that? Good morning, everybody. Howdy, Chris. How are you? Hope you're having a lovely Monday. Good day to you. Hope everyone had a lovely weekend. I had a pretty fun weekend. And you know what? I think I had a productive one. Hey, Steve. Good to see you, my man. What's up, Pat? Howdy. What's up, Bolster? Redden Economics, Lady Eves. Did I say it right? Hey, Mars, what's up? Hot damn, I am back. Hey, Ron, did you get my Play the Damn Song Easy email? I don't think I saw that, actually. No, I'm not sure I got that. Welcome to the show where we watch the Dems hang themselves. Get your news on with Ron. Oh, boy. Salutations, Tribite. Lady Eves, I said it right. Sweet. Good to see everybody. Please resend it, Edwin. Good morning, Ron. Howdy, stream. Good morning, Schultzy. Good to see you. Good morning, Celeste. Good to see you. Cappuccino Conservative, your article just got the Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Dana sent that same article. Some people have been sending that. So that is how we're going to start the day. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that article so far. Yeah. Ooh. Ouch. First, we're going to do the question, which will be music related. So we'll have a little bit of fun first. Cheers, Ron Placone. Good to see you live. Been lurking for months. Well, Will Jingy. Good to see you as well. Thanks for being here. The Brexit shambles is the #1 trender on Twitter. Send it over. Send some information over. I'm admittedly not the most fluent on Brexit. There are people that can talk about it a lot better than I can, but please send something over. Good morning, Daniel. Glad you like Music Mondays too, Goldie. Hoping we have time to go over the Mexican presidential election. Of course we do. Tweet something. You guys know it helps whenever you tweet something to me. And you can see the articles now. Whoa, we are way past 30. Okay, sorry. I was just getting caught up in talking to you guys in the chat. We are past 30. You know what that means? That means the show has officially begun. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. And this is our Music Monday edition. And some real quick housekeeping here, but then I want to get to the question, and then we got a lot of news to get to, music-related news and other related news. Remember, it doesn't have to be music-related. Speaking of music, though, I am strongly considering doing a Get Your News On with Ron podcast, doing a podcast version of this show. The podcast I was doing has kind of been on hiatus a little bit. So what I'm thinking about doing instead is doing a Get Your News On with Ron podcast version where we just kind of summarize the clips from the week. And then I'll, of course, have a recorded version of the theme song that some of you like, some of you don't like, but it's part of the fun. So anyway, real quick, that's not today's question, but what are your thoughts on all that? Are you guys pro podcast or anti-podcast? I just thought it'd be a cool way to have another, I could just do a preamble summarizing the week and some of the things we talked about, have segments that are just clips from the week, and then have a theme song that's properly recorded. Because Friday night I spent a bunch of time playing with recording software. You want a vodcast? Well, this is we already have a vodcast. The vodcast is not going anywhere. That's what this is. Sanity, yes to the podcast. Goldilocks, pro podcast. Steve Alvarez, podcasts are perfect when I'm on the road. A Mars, I like this idea. You guys are making me feel so good. All right. I could always use another podcast to stream at work. Murmurs, heart murmurs, I hope. All right. Not sure what that's in reference to. Podcast sounds great. You could interview progressive congressional candidates. A lot of them are looking for more exposure. Well, I already do interview a lot of progressive candidates, I think. At least I certainly try to. But, yeah, I mean, that would be part of it, too, of course. Podcast is a great idea. All right, cool. So, guys, let's get to the question real quick here and then get to some news. Gaslight Anthem. I've heard a lot about Gaslight Anthem, and I've never really dug into them. Wolfster, where would this podcast be posted? Probably on Libsyn and iTunes and anywhere else you get podcasts. Same place as my new, same place that my podcast now goes to. But that podcast, we haven't been super active with it. It's getting a little stale. So what I'm thinking about doing is ending that podcast, and instead we can have a Music Monday segment to this podcast. So all the 5 Chords and the Truth activities, people sending me music and stuff like that, we can just do it on the Get Your News On with Ron podcast instead. That's what I'm thinking. So anyway, moving on to today's question. I'm wearing a U.S. Bombs t-shirt because I went and I saw the U.S. Bombs this weekend. They played at this VFW in Baldwin Park. They had some shows in L.A. too, but I was actually out of town when they were doing those shows. So I had to go to the Baldwin Park VFW show. And this was a VFW punk rock show that went until 1:30 in the morning. There were like 10 bands on this thing. And it was pretty badass. I have been wanting to see the U.S. Bombs for a long time. They were a big deal when I was in high school. Actually, before that, when I was in middle school. Because they started in 93. They kind of stopped being active around early 2000s. And then they would like come back a little bit. They even had a stint on Comedy Central where they were the backing band, I think, for Jim Brewer on Premium Blend. And it was a small, tiny VFW punk show, and I went with my friends Diana and Adam, and, the place kind of cleared out by the time U.S. Bombs hit the stage. There were some diehards up front singing along with pretty much everything, and at first I was hanging out in the back, being old man Magoo, right? But then Diana was like, come on, and we went up front, and shortly after we went up front, they went into one of my favorite songs by them, and it is one of their kind of, I guess, hit songs, if they had a hit song. This track called Jax. It's a really fun song, and there's a lot of, like, chanting kind of in it. They do everyone sings along, they're kind of anthematic 77 punk rock, and everybody was screaming along. I didn't jump on stage. Some people jumped on stage and sang with Dwayne Peters, who was a legendary skateboarder, who was the singer from the band, so it was kind of cool to see him in person, although I wasn't really following up on his life that much. He's had a kind of crazy life, and he's kind of out there as a guy, but, he's a legendary skateboarder, made some great music, and I do remember the punk band Tsunami Bomb, and they are great, and that is quite a throwback, Chris, so kudos to you. But anyway, my question... I could babble on and on about how much fun I had at this show. My question to you guys, when was the last time you went to a show, or just like you can summarize a show that you want to, where it just went way later than you thought it would, and it was just a borderline festival of music, and maybe it was a DIY production, and it was pretty badass, and you weren't expecting it, and it was a pretty fun time. Do you have any experiences like that? And if so, what were they? I'll give you guys a little bit of time to respond to that question. And I'm going to kind of look at the tweets while I'm waiting for you all to respond. Although we're going to talk... Some of you guys sent the same article, by the way, or a similar article. And it's about a similar certain topic that all of you have already brought up in the chat as well. So I happened to just pick Marcus's article. It was just the first one I saw. So we'll start with that one. And Dana, I saw yours as well. But yeah, I just happened to have easier access to Marcus's when I happened to go to retweet it. That's all. So it's really your retweet as well. All right, let's see here. You guys are already kicking in, which is great. Oh, Tim, Nirvana at the Rockin' Teepee, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 1989. Oh man. Wow, I am very jealous. I never got to see Nirvana. I missed it, you know. I mean, I don't want to say I was too young because I've been 27 since the year 1933, but wow. 1989, seeing Nirvana in New Mexico. Damn. Soundgarden at the Seattle Center Arena. The question is, have you ever seen a show where it just went way later than you thought it would be, but it was just a badass, crazy experience? And I brought up how I just went to a VFW show this weekend. It ended up going till 1:30 in the morning. And it was really badass. And I haven't been to a show like that in a long, long time. It's been a while since I've been to a concert. Lady Eve says the last one I attended was Chris de Burgh. Right on. Ozfest. I went to Ozfest in 2003, all-encompassing. I went to Ozfest in 2003, and Marilyn Manson was there. I remember that. The only reason I got to go to Ozfest is because my little cousin had a goth stage that literally lasted for like 2 weeks. I think she went to Ozfest and then her goth stage was over. But fortunately for me, during that goth stage, I was the cooler older cousin that got to take her to Ozfest. So I got to go to Ozfest for free because her mom paid for the tickets and I was the chaperone. And I got to see Zakk Wylde play with Ozzy, which was pretty badass. The rest of the bands, I was kind of north of indifferent too. Marilyn Manson was interesting, but I've seen him a couple times over the years randomly, so, you know, it kind of was what it was. It was an enjoyable show, but Ozzy was something to behold. Soundgarden, Seattle Center Arena, final show of the tour. That sounds awesome. Dred Zeppelin, another Ozfest. George Clinton in Milwaukee. There's those sirens again. They come at the same time every day. Did you guys hear that? Man, you guys have some good ones here. Yngwie Malmsteen. You've seen Yngwie? Wow. Wow. How long did he play for the entire 5 hours? You said you thought it would go to 7 to 9, but you got out at near 12:30. Did he play that long? Daft Punk, Prophets of Rage, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Oh, some of you guys have some really cool shows that you all have seen. Someone said they saw a Misfits cover band at Jerry's Pizza in Bakersfield. That's awesome, Daniel. Now, what would be amazing is if you saw a Cracker cover band in Bakersfield, since they have that song about Bakersfield. Bad Religion and the Addicts. That would be a great show. Pranker Squire. I had to leave Janis Joplin and the holding company because my girlfriend had curfew. Are you a little bitter towards that girlfriend and or her parents? Janis frickin' Joplin. Wow. I bet that was an amazing show. Green Jelly. Did they play the Three Little Pigs song? I got a Green Jelly cassette tape as a gift when I was 9 years old. And it was, I thought it was so freaking cool, like the cartoon art and the Three Little Pigs song. Every now and again, I will do that, song for karaoke. Reverend Alex de Blasi, Jimmy Carl Black from the Mothers of Invention, was a guest lecturer for the Zappa class at IU. That's freaking awesome. And I am also an IU graduate, and I attended a lot of those classes as well. I didn't attend the Frank Zappa class, but I did attend 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. These were rock history classes. And I also attended the Beatles class, and still in touch with the guys in that department, actually. So I don't know if you are a fellow IU alum, Alex, but that's pretty badass. Real Jingy says, those sirens, same time every day, regular toxic emission warnings to the public. Maybe. Fortunately, I'm indoors, I guess. I was way bitter at her mom, but I got over it. It's good of you. That's very large and big of you, because, man. Although, you know what? I had an ex-girlfriend, well, girlfriend at the time, ex-girlfriend now. We got in a fight and walked out of a Joan Jett concert early. And I'll be honest, I still hold a little bit of a grudge. Because whenever I think about Joan Jett, I think about how I left that concert early because of a fight about nothing with this girl I shouldn't have been dating in the first place. We all live and learn. I got it. Oh, man, dude, Alex, we were in the same program. I did IMP, too. I didn't do rock history, but I was totally in IMP as well. So we probably have a lot of the same friends. That is very much a small world. You'll have to email me sometime, and we'll or email me, and we'll unpack all the mutual people we know. That'd be fun. But that's badass, Alex. I walked out of Boston once, and you two another time. So bored. I don't blame you. I too, and music is subjective, so no offense to anyone that's a fan of either of those bands, but I find both of those bands extremely boring, and I would walk out of both those shows as well. I'd say the best show I've seen was Modest Mouse. I really enjoyed Modest Mouse live, although I've heard mixed reviews. One time we talked about them versus Built to Spill. I brought up the fact that Built to Spill has disappointed me twice live very much. Modest Mouse has never disappointed me live. I went to a Korn show in 2008. I had to leave 2 songs into Korn because the person I was with didn't bother to inform me they had work at 6 a.m. That's lame. That's pretty lame. Almost hitchhiked home. I would have. I totally would have. Or, I guess, yeah, this was before the days of Lyft and Uber or something like that. I would have just been like, hey, take a Lyft home. Or if they drove, I've been like, hey, I'll take a Lyft, That's what I would have done. I didn't know Korn was still around in 2008, actually. 3-day show. Right on. Well, thank you guys. Let's move on to the article that we're gonna hit right now. And I know all of you have already had thoughts about this. And here it is. Ready? Boom. Oh man. Okay, I don't have the screen on perfectly here. But is she back? Talk emerges that Hillary Clinton is plotting her 2020 comeback and prepping to take on Donald Trump a second time. Hillary Clinton has ramped her public presence and her fundraising appeals in recent weeks, leading to speculation she's plotting her 2020 comeback and preparing for a rematch with Donald Trump. The former presidential candidate has been appearing at high-profile events, such as the Clinton Foundation and at Oxford University, in addition to asking for donations to causes she supports. Okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean she's planning to run in 2020. The New York Post notes that 5 times in the last month alone, Clinton let supporters know her super PAC was working against Trump. Well, she's going to tell them that so they give money. Again, this doesn't mean she's running in 2020. Part of this is me trying to really be optimistic and also not trying to, run for the hills over this, because there's going to be a lot of articles. Whether there's any merit to this or not, and at this point, we have no idea, but whether there's any merit to this or not, we're going to see a ton of articles like this pop up between now and 2020. There's going to be a ton of Hillary Clinton might be running, she might be vamping up. Why? Because it's clickbait. Because we're gonna jump on it every single freaking time. And I include myself in that. I'm not, but right now, so far, there's been nothing in this article that is conclusive evidence that she's leaning towards a 2020 run. I have a feeling she's not going to. Would it shock me if she did? No. If I had to make a bet right now, I'd say it's not going to happen. But, again, it wouldn't surprise me. If she does run, we are guaranteed 8 years of Trump. I mean, we are guaranteed 8 years of Trump. Because the only Democratic candidate that he could beat, and there's actually more than one, but I wouldn't say only, but I guess the only one we know for sure. I think there's other Democrats that Trump could beat, but the only one we know for sure, to clarify there, the only one that we know for sure Trump could beat would be running against him if Hillary Clinton runs in 2020. So we are guaranteeing 8 years of Trump. But so far, and let's see if there's anything here. So far, it's just a bunch of pictures, and this is from the Mail. So yeah, people are speculating it. Okay, here we go. Using the headlines around Trump policies as a rallying cry, Clinton raised more than $1.5 million for migrant children and their families being separated at the border, with money going to several groups, including the ACLU, Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, Florence Immigrant and Refugees Rights Project. Half of the donations came from Twitter, with email, Instagram, and Facebook also helping Clinton rake in the cash. It's interesting that when it comes to raising money, Hillary Clinton can utilize new media, but they couldn't do that throughout her campaign. They were mailing flyers during her campaign. One of the things that they did for a last-minute push, because they noticed they weren't as ahead as they thought they were. So one of the things they did a mailer. Instead of a big grassroots push, instead of reaching out to the part of the base that she soured, instead of maybe picking a VP candidate that was a little more inspiring than wet paint, instead of doing all that, they sent out flyers via mail. Because in their mind, it will always be 1992. Interesting when it comes to raising money. The Clinton camp can totally use new media. But when it comes to winning an election, they could not be bothered. But, I'm sure that's Susan Sarandon's fault. The group's focus is on Trump's judicial nominees, noting on its message page, our court should be the place that we can trust to safeguard our rights and promote justice. All right, so again, nothing here. All right, demand justices, Executive Director Brian Fowler. Okay, Clinton's next scheduled public appearance is at the 3rd annual Ozfest. No, I'm just kidding. She's going to Ozfest, you guys. You see that? Hillary Clinton is going to Ozfest. She really wants to connect with the metalheads. I don't think Ozfest even happens anymore. But sometimes they're a little slow to adapt with the time. I actually don't. Does Ozfest still go on? All right, anyway, Hillary Clinton is headlining Ozfest. They're getting a little more corporate, you guys. Really, I mean, Ozzy was inspired by the campaign. He goes, Sharon, I'm still with her, Sharon. Sharon, I'm with her. I'm with her, Sharon. Get Hillary to headline Ozfest, Sharon. Ozzy, I don't know if Hillary Clinton plays music. Sharon, Hillary will play music. Sharon, we'll get her a band. It'll be a great band. And I'll sing, and then Hillary can just be, Ozzy, I don't know, she wants to be on a crazy train. Maybe she just wants to be on a regular, she'll be on a crazy train. Sharon, did you see the way she organized her campaign? It was the worst campaign in modern history, Sharon. Of course she'll get on a crazy train. Blah. That actually, crazy train is a good descriptor of her campaign. All right, so there we go. Liberals were furious. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, nothing here indicating she's actually going to run. So maybe, just maybe, that's just a little bit of clickbaitiness. We're not sure, but hey, we're going to be keeping tabs on it. But, I look forward to her headlining Ozfest. That'll be interesting. So we learned she may or may not run for president in 2020, but she will be headlining Ozfest this year. And I don't know, does Ozfest still happen? I don't think it does. You know what? I gotta find out. Ozfest 2018. Let's just see. Pretty sure it's not. Oh, so it might come back. It might come back. So the whole idea of Ozfest is still kind of active. They're doing different types of events. But it looks like Ozfest itself is not really a thing. They did a similar thing called Knotfest. Knot. All right. So, but it might come back. So there we go. Neat. And Hillary Clinton's the headliner. Pretty cool, huh? Be exciting watching her headline there. I bet her music is pretty uninspired. Her music is just like it's just a loop of it's just a loop from her rallies and then her shaming people for not voting her for her. That's her music. It's very highbrow conceptual. It's just like, your fault, Jill Stein. Your fault, Jill Stein. Your fault, Jill Stein. Your fault, Jill Stein. Your fault, Jill. And then she just gets on mic. She's like, well, you had a and B dichotomy choice. You had a choice. That's the whole set. And people are like, wow, this is real depressing. This is she has some like ambient band backing her up. Mogwai's in the background going like, what the hell is this? I would pay to see that show. Say what you will. That'd be freaking interesting. All right, let's move on. I am having way too much fun with this. Hopefully you guys are too. It's pretty freaking funny. All right. This is from David. David connected music and politics in a very interesting way. So let's see what he did here. This looks like a really cool headline. I'm going to do it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet, and then we'll go over, and I'll let you guys see the article itself. We are getting so fancy pants here, you guys. Check it out. Boom. Ready to see it? Oh, snap. There it is. It's still loading. How about that? Look at it load. All right. See? Loading. This is from the New York Times. Unwelcome sound on Germany stages. Musicians who boycott Israel. Okay. So I guess they're not letting bands that have boycotted Israel to play. So this is in Berlin. The Scottish rappers Young Fathers have earned critical praise for their blend of hip-hop, electronica, and gospel. They won Britain's prestigious Mercury Prize for Album of the Year. Their sweaty, uplifting shows are in demand across Europe. But when an arts festival in Germany decided last month to drop the band from its bill, it set off a clamor that had nothing to do with the group's music and everything to do with the country's post-World War II sensibility. Young Fathers openly supports BDS, which asks companies and people to avoid doing business with Israel and protest of its treatment of Palestinians. But in Germany, where calling for a boycott against the Jewish state carries deep historical association with the Nazis, the movement is widely viewed as anti-Semitic. Well, that's the wrong attitude to have, because it's not boycotting a group of people. It's boycotting the actions of a government, or the boycott is because the actions of a government, not a group of people, a huge group of people at that. It's about the actions of an oppressive government. And you know, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. As Germany struggles with increasing attacks on Jews and Israel is under pressure for the killing of protesters along its border with Gaza, a growing clash over BDS is spilling over into the cultural scene. It has divided art and music festivals that aim to foster cultural dialogue and even sparked a feud between the mayor of Munich and Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. BDS is well known for sparking confrontations on college campuses and in the United States and for compelling entertainers to pick sides. It's such a shame that even in other places around the world, you can't have a conversation about what an oppressive government is doing without being labeled an anti-Semite, and it just doesn't make any sense for me. And I hate some of the verbiage we use, and I think that really needs to change. I refuse to say I am anti one country or another. I'm not going to say I'm anti-Palestine or I'm anti-Israel or I'm pro this or pro that. I'm pro-human beings, and I'm pro-peace, and I'm anti-war, and I'm anti-oppression. So when a government that has all the power is being oppressive and shooting protesters and shooting unarmed people and shooting the powerless, I am against that. And you want to say, well, it's a complex issue. Okay, I'll give you that. You can say it's a complex issue. Go ahead and say that. That's fine. But in any complex issue, doesn't the side that has the most power, that has the most force, don't they need to cease first? Isn't that how it works? And by the way, there's peace movements in Israel. There's peace activists in Israel. They, too, are opposed to what their government is doing. Does that make them anti-Semitic? There are people in the United States, myself being one of them, that are against what the government does when it comes to war. That are against the drone strikes, that are against the endless war, that are against the exploitations of resources in the Middle East. Does that make me anti-American? It sure as hell doesn't. I'm not anti-American. And just because we talked about this topic, this stream will be demonetized. And any clips resulting from this will be demonetized right away. Just because we're talking about this topic. Just because we're talking about this topic. It's really weird. That's putting it lightly. It's really weird. And now, you know, musicians... Laura puts it a great way. We are anti-militarism. That's a militarism, I think. And you had a beautiful insight, and I couldn't even pronounce it properly for you, Laura. I'm very sorry. But yeah, that's how I like to say it. I like to say I am pro-peace. Balthazar, thank you for your super chat contribution. Here, let me go down and see. Oh, I'm missing a bunch of stuff. All right, let's go to the super chat now. Try to lighten things up. Come back. When was she actually well liked? I'm assuming that refers to Hillary. And you know what, Balthazar? Let's try to refrain from judgment until we see her music project. All right, I'm pretty excited. Again, Mogwai's the backing band, and it's just going to be her shaming voters with loops complaining about Jill Stein. And honestly, we shouldn't diss it until we've heard it. Maybe that's what she's planning on doing. Maybe she's not planning on running in 2020. She's planning on headlining Ozfest, which will be back because Ozzy's a fan. I have no idea where Ozzy's politics are. I know some of those cats are a little more conservative. Like Alice Cooper is a Republican. And if you listen to him talk about it, it sounds really dumb. And he's like a big golfer and stuff. Yeah. They write articles about it sometimes so that the baby boomers that didn't have enough fun in the 60s and 70s can feel good about themselves. You know, like, oh, Alice Cooper is just like me, hanging out at the country club, and oh, I wish I would have done something brave back then. I didn't. I just hung out and did nothing. And I saw Jimmy Buffett once. That's all I did. It's like, and again, I'm not saying that's all boomers. I know a lot of you here are like, hey, I'm a baby boomer and I lived it really well, Ron. I know you did, and I want to hear your stories. I'm not poking fun at you. I'm poking fun. Platypus, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. We need to talk about percentages of voters, absolutely not relatively. She didn't get 48.2. She got 48.2, 55, 26, 73. 73% of the country didn't want her. Well, yeah, they also didn't want Trump. That's true. She listens to Peter Dow and Robbie Mook, who, you know what? She can really tap into Peter for that project. Although he's woke now, remember? He's changed. If you don't learn from history, doomed to be Peter Dow. If powers won't let mainstream media talk Israel, they'll stop you. I guess, yeah. People are talking about Jimmy Buffett in the in the chat. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that article, David. And I really appreciate the music and political connection spawned for a greater... Because, yeah, artists are being outspoken about this. And I like it when artists are outspoken. Now, here's something that I'm actually... And I'm going to go to you guys in the chat for your insight on this, too. Where I'm not against it, per se, because I feel like that's... But I personally wouldn't do this. One thing I don't do... and I'm not really in support of, is when you boycott a certain place performing there. And this is separate from the article. This is not having to do with the article we just went through. But when artists will boycott a city or a place because of something that the powers that be did there, I'm not for that. And the reason I'm not for that is because, and again, I'm not against people that do it. I understand, like, you're making a statement and you're trying to put pressure on the powers that be. I get it. But, you know, like just using the first, for instance, that came to my head, when North Carolina passed the bathroom bill and Bruce Springsteen boycotted his show in North Carolina, I'm against something like that. Or not against it, like, I'm not saying, oh, shame on you. Like, I get it, but I wouldn't do that as an artist myself. So sleep tight, North Carolina. You don't get Bruce Springsteen, but you'll still get Ron Placone. Sleep tight. That's a shitty trade. Not even trying to be self-deprecating, just being real here. But yeah, the reason I'm not for that is because I know what it feels like to be in a sea of red and to be amidst a blue dot. And a lot of times you really need everything you can cling to feel like you're not alone. And so when artists that you like, that you connect with, that might be like-minded too, especially when they say, hey, we're not coming there, man, you feel even more alone. So I personally, and especially since it's not like but if I had shows booked in North Carolina while that was going on, I would have thought of it. I would have actually thought the opposite. There's more of a reason for me to go because, you know, the folks that want to see me there, they really need some like-minded folks around them. And they really need a night to forget about it, even though they wouldn't forget about it because we'd be talking about it on stage. But they need a night to kind of let the demons out with some like-minded folks. You know what I mean? So I don't endorse stuff like that. I don't endorse, especially since I'm not at a level where I have any power either. You know, I mean, I guess if you're filling up stadiums, you know, you're going to get a headline or two. When you're just playing small venues and comedy clubs like me, nobody's going to, you know, it's not going to have any effect. So the only thing I would be doing is hurting the people that want to see me. So why would I do that, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and you're not necessarily going to change minds either. When you see these like small level bands and stuff, I'm boycotting this state. It's like, okay, you're just screwing over the people that want to see you. You're just making them feel even more alone and isolated by not coming. Like, it's not like there's going to be some person in North Carolina that's maybe a little backwards, and they're like, man, I totally was all about persecuting the gays, but then I found out that my favorite crust punk rock band was not going to come to my local DIY space that I like to frequent once a week, and man, I've completely changed my mind. Like, that's those two things usually don't intersect. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Maybe you're like, he's really going off on something that I don't give a shit about. Let's see. All right, we do have some super chats. Would you interview Nate Bethia? I don't know them. I don't know who Nate is. Who is Nate? Democratic Socialist Army vet, good perspectives on military waste. He witnessed in Afghanistan, and a very good writer. I would totally interview him. yeah, send me some stuff on him. Email me some stuff on him. That's how I best keep track of stuff. And then I forward it to Pasta, and Pasta books them. Because Pasta's a people person. Pasta's really good with the peoples. I try to do my best. After seeing Abby Martin on Rogan and the indoctrination of 20-year-olds to consider Palestinians as subhuman, I lost any respect for Israel to exist in a current state. Government and average people are far closer. Balthazar says this. Daily reminder, Streamlads, Balthazar says. Thank you very much, Balthazar. Yeah, those are the powers that be that are doing that. Not necessarily all the people that live there. But I see what you're saying. Totally see what you're saying. All right, let's move on to other stuff. All right, let's talk about the presidential election. We got something from Seawalk here. I'll go ahead and I'll give it a retweet. And then I will go to see what we're dealing with here. Because I honestly, I mean, other than the obvious stuff, I haven't really done a whole lot of reading about it. But here's Greg Palast's perspective. I like Greg Palast, so let's read his perspective. He's a fun guy, very intelligent guy. So let's go to his analysis. It's a pretty good one to have. Sorry, this. Here, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can fix the screen. There we go. That kind of fix. So here's the thing about doing the articles this way now. I'm doing it for the first time. Or excuse me, I have to do it again every morning. So sometimes it just looks better than others because I have to redo it every single morning. I don't know why that is, but anyway. All right, let's get to it. How Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the Bernie of Mexico, won the presidency. This is Greg Palast's perspective from this. So let's dive into it. And Greg Palast is a very good man with words. He's good with words, that man. So let's see what he's saying. I'm writing minutes after the victory of the Bernie Sanders of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. I'm sure that pronunciation is terrible. I apologize. Everybody calls him AMLO. Well, we're going to call him that too. This is actually AMLO's re-election. He won the first presidency in 2006, but back then the thieving, scheming, blood-stained criminal gang that rules Mexico, and I'm being polite, declared AMLO's dissolute opponent the winner. This is Trump's nightmare. I'm thinking of Hunter S. Thompson as a reader. Those swine weren't going to let it happen. They weren't going to let him get the presidency that was rightfully his. They're a bunch of animals. They're animals. Powers that be. Political corruption. Animals, all of them, all around the world. All the countries. Just a bunch of criminals taking over government. All right. That impression's probably not that good. In 2006, rather than concede to vote thievery, lick his wounds, and toddle off on a book tour, AMLO took his supporters into the streets, raised hell, blocked the Capitol Center Square for months, held a people's inaugurals, and vowed to never, ever concede. I feel like there's a little bit of a criticism of Miss Clinton going on here. Lick his wounds and toddle off on a book tour. We all know somebody that did that. And let's never forget that when Bernie Sanders was going around promoting Medicare for all, trying to get everybody in the country health care, Hillary Clinton was off on a book tour promoting herself. And tonight, 12 years later, AMLO has won a crushing, too big to steal victory in Mexico's presidential election. And while the good and great told him he'd be finished if he kept protesting the stolen election, he made counting every vote the very first of his 5-point campaign platform. He understands that even those with empty stomachs also hunger for democracy. And there's a lesson here. Are you listening, Al Gore, Mr. Kerry, and Mrs. Clinton? Al Gore, who rolled around and played dead when the Supreme Court stole an election from him. Mr. Kerry, who was so uninspiring he couldn't beat George W. Bush, and now he goes around promoting worldwide war, say that 5 times fast, even though he made all of his salt by protesting Vietnam. That protesting soldier is a long, long way from home, Mr. Kerry. You've forgotten about that guy. And, of course, Mrs. Clinton, who, you know what? Her band's going to be great. And the people that are just going to see this as a clip later and don't understand the callback I just did there, Sorry, but we did this thing earlier where Hillary starts a band. I can't reenact it all. AMLO gave the people something to vote for. The rest of his platform included expanding free college education. Yeah, expanding it, because they already have some of it, as opposed to having nothing, like we do here, by the way. Raising the minimum wage, fighting income inequality, and creating a massive infrastructure fixing jobs program. Sounds familiar. If that sounds like Bernie Sanders, it's no accident. AMLO, like Bernie, said he is taking a program from the great Mexican hero, FDR. So I guess whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Mexico, whether you're anywhere in the world, you give people something to vote for instead of something to vote against. They show up. That's how it works. And now this guy is fortunately in a situation where he was too big. They couldn't steal the election from him. And I really like Greg Palast prose. It's a fun way to do it with Greg Palast prose. Laura Power says censorship stops our civil exchange and unity against the thieves, refusing the experience of maximal Bill of Rights for everyone. I agree, Laura. Well said. I agree. All right. Let's move on. Thank you for sharing that, Seawalk. And great pick of an article. Let's see what's going on over on the Reddit. We are almost out of time, you guys, already. We'll go over to the Reddit, and then we'll do one or two more. Oh, here we go. This is from Winham. And this new study confirms that American workers are getting ripped off. They also have another study coming out. Apparently the sky is blue. So guys, sky's blue. All right, this is from the New York Mag. New study confirms that American workers are getting ripped off. Again, next study, the sky is blue, rain is wet, and tacos are delicious. America's unemployment rate is hovering near half-century lows. There are now more job openings than unemployed workers in the United States for the first time since the government began tracking that ratio. Of course, that depends on how you measure unemployment, because it doesn't take into account the people that have been given up, and a lot of people have given up, and we have a gig economy, and can that really count for employment? It's arguable whether or not it could. So let's not go celebrating the economy. And yet, most Americans' wages aren't getting any better. That's because of underemployment and a gig economy, and people are desperate. Over the past 12 months, piddling wage gains, combined with modest inflation, have left the vast majority of our nation's laborers with lower real hourly earnings that they had in May of 2017. Also, if wages kept up with inflation, the minimum wage would be over $20 an hour, but we're fighting just for $15 and can't get politicians behind it. What? Really? Yeah. There's likely some... Alright, so hold on. Economists have put forward a variety of explanations for the aberrant absence of wage growth in the middle of a recovery. Could it be that corporations are completely unchecked, unregulated, and we have policies like right to work that allows people to exploit workers unapologetically, and so all of the wealth has just gone to the upper 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and we have a CEO to worker ratio that is about 475 times to 1 on average, at times going up to 1,300 to 1, which nobody could have predicted. None of the early thinkers that we use to justify this ridiculous capitalistic system, and other countries don't even touch ours. I'm no economist, but that's my summary. I don't know. All right. Well-paid baby boomers are retiring. Why are they well-paid? Maybe it's because unions were strong when they were working. I don't know. And being replaced with millennials who have enough experience to do the boomers' job, but not enough to demand their salaries. Interesting. There's likely some truth to these narratives, but a new report from the OECD offers a more straightforward and political explanation. American policymakers have chosen to design an economic system that leaves workers desperate and disempowered for the sake of directing a higher share of economic growth to bosses and shareholders. Here, let me summarize that and take the sugar off the coating there. there's been policy giveaways to the 1% for a long time now, and because they're greedy, they keep it all for themselves and don't give anything to the people that allow their company to function in the first place. American workers are more likely to be poor. Low income rate. U.S. is up there. Income inequality, U.S. is up there. We also get fired more often and with far less notice. Right, because of right-to-work policies like that, you can do whatever you want. And because we have temp workers, we have stuff like that. Our government does less for us when we're out of work than just about anyone else's. Yep. Labor's share of income has been falling faster than almost anywhere else. This is nothing that we didn't know, but another study has once again confirmed it. But we're still really far away from anything being done about it. All right. We are almost out of time. Oh, I want to get into this one. All right, we're going to go to Steve's, and I have a feeling this might be how we close out here, because this is a juicy one. And I've seen this a little bit, but I haven't actually read it yet. So this is from Mr. Greenwald. MSNBC does not merely permit fabrication against Democratic Party critics, it encourages and rewards them. And I know that Malcolm Nance, the person in this photo, got into it with Glenn Greenwald on Twitter. And based on what I know about Malcolm Nance, one thing I would say to Glenn Greenwald is, Glenn, I love your work, but you should never have a battle of wits with an unarmed man. During the 2016 primary and general election campaigns, various MSNBC hosts were openly campaigning for Hillary Clinton. One of the network's programs featured Malcolm Nance, a Colin Powell Republican by his own admission, who thinks of the economy of war, knows a lot about defense because he's been doing it for 30-plus years, and just does anything he can to promote war, has gotten it wrong multiple times about Russia, has never had to backtrack or apologize for anything because he just babbles on about defense in a way that the average person can't understand. Whose background is quite sketchy, yeah, and is presented by the cable network as an intelligence expert and former intelligence officer for the U.S. Navy. On August 20th, 2016, Weekend host Joy Reid asked Nance about the supposed affinity for Russia harbored by Jill Stein supporters. In response, Nance told MSNBC viewers, Jill Stein has a show on Russia Today. You can still watch that here. She doesn't, by the way. Whatever your views might be about Stein and her third-party candidacy, there's no disputing the fact that Nance's statement was a falsehood, a fabrication, a lie. Stein did not have a show on RT, nor did she ever host a show on RT. What Nance said was made up out of a whole cloth, fabricated in order to encourage MSNBC viewers to believe that Stein, one of the candidates running against Clinton, was a paid agent of the Kremlin. Reid allowed Nance's lie to stand. The media watchdog group FAIR reportedly documented the lie. So nobody's apologized for this. Also, when the nerve agent thing happened, he said we had, without a doubt, 100% it was definitely Russia. There was no evidence that it was Russia, and now further evidence hints towards it definitely wasn't. But he said 100% without a doubt. He claimed that they were going to put stuff in airplanes. He said that they were going to try to sneak nerve gas in through airplanes, through commercial airliners. That has never happened. That has not happened. Russia has not done anything remotely resembling an attack on our borders here in the United States. To note, he said that for sure was going to happen. He said that the nerve attack in the UK was for sure Russia. There's still no evidence hinting that that's the case. There's actually evidence to the contrary. And what's he doing? He's aggressively promoting his new book. Which, by the way, he had his old book, how he talks about, there was for sure this collusion. It was for sure, I bring this up again now because I think MSNBC will never correct its lie. It has made it clear that its lies designed to destroy the reputation of the Democratic Party critics are perfectly permissible. This week, I traveled to Moscow to meet Edward Snowden. The panel was moderated by RT Editor-in-Chief. Let's see. So what are we going to talk? After Noblin claimed that Russia was the victim of disinformation and fake news campaign, I responded by pointing out that while this was true, Russia is also the perpetrator of such campaigns, and that in general, the history of the Cold War has continued through today, whereby the U.S. and Russia both used the same tactics against one another, while also claiming to be the victim. That's fair. After the event, there were camera crews from numerous media outlets wanting to interview some of the panel participants. I spoke at all of them. Nance did none of that. What he did instead is exactly what he did on MSNBC to Jill Stein in 2016. In 2 tweets, he outright lied about me on purpose, telling his 420,000 Twitter followers that I am an agent of Moscow and deep in the Kremlin pocket. He further lied by saying that I helped Snowden defect and that I report to my masters in Moscow. None of Nance's statements here is an opinion. These claims are intended to be factual statements that I work for and am paid for by Russia and the Kremlin, that I aided Snowden. Thus far, this tweet has been retweeted by close to 5,000 people. This is because Nance knows that he is free to lie in this way with impunity. That's because he works for an organization, MSNBC, that masquerades as a news outlet but actively encourages its employees to lie this way about anyone who criticizes the Democratic Party. He will be celebrated inside MSNBC, not sanctioned or even told to rescind his lie. Because, just as happened with the lie he told about Jill Stein, and the lie he told about nerve gas, and the lie he's told about commercial airliners, and the lie he told... I mean, this guy just speculates about, hey, this could happen. And he basically just makes up these for instances, and you can't really dispute it because, yes, it is technically possible. Is it possible that, someone could sneak something in on a commercial airliner? Yes, it is possible. That's not impossible. Just like it's possible I could walk out on the street and get hit by a car. It's possible that lightning could strike somebody when there's a storm happening. It's possible that you know what I mean. When you know a lot about defense because you've been doing it for 30 plus years, you can come up with all these all these scenarios that are possible. Maybe some of them are more likely than others, but they're still just this ridiculous speculation used to pound the drums for World War III. And MSNBC puts this on a pedestal. This is not your friend. This is a guy who has made his bones off the economy of war, and he thinks about that. And I know this firsthand because I was at a dinner party the guy was at before. He described himself. He said, I am a Colin Powell Republican. I'm strong on defense. That's what he said. You know what that's code for? I think in the economy of war. And I want to continue the economy of war because it's made me rich. And now I have 15 minutes in the spotlight. And we are totally out of time. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chats. Goldilocks points out, Colin Powell Republican. That should tell you all you need to know right there. Exactly. Exactly. I was hoping we only needed, Pat says, I was hoping we only needed to experience McCarthy once, but I guess that model worked so well they used it. Well, yeah, they needed some kind of scapegoat, so they dusted the fine print off of McCarthyism. Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. If we use a job quality index where all the benefits were quantized and compared against set standards for the job and location, it's like a food inspector just looking at a fryer and saying clean. I don't know how this restaurant is losing money. I feel you. Well, guys, we are totally out of time. I'm so sick of hearing about Russiagate. When it gets to the point that you smear a great man like Ed Schultz in his obituary, there's a problem. Thank you, Ja. Thank you. And hello, Peter Lavelle. Good to see you. Can't wait until you have me back on RT. You'll have to do this sometime. I have no idea what our time difference is, but you'll have to do Get Your News On with Ron sometime. I just have people on a Google Hangout, and then we go through articles. People tweet at us together. But good to see you, buddy. Hope you're well. So, yeah, there you go, guys. Daniel, please do send me some music, and I'm very thrilled to hear that you checked out the Death documentary. Guys, we are totally out of time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. You know what that means? That means you guys tweet me articles. I go through them. We go through them together. Want to help support this show? You can do so on Patreon. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. A pay-what-you-can level. And you get free tickets to my shows. You get all kinds of exclusive bonus content. And you're going to get my album delivered to your inbox, which is going to be out in November. And guys, I'm looking into that Get Your News On with Ron podcast. We're probably going to do it. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here. I will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, stay safe and check out some new music. It's Music Monday. Peace, y'all.